Oh, there we go. There we go. There we go. I'm just gonna like.
Whoa.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 6th live show of the Late Night Book Club. We're so excited you can join us for like our half-year anniversary / kind of late birthday celebration of our February month. We read Grown by Tiffany D. Jackson, and what a read. What a read. There's definitely been some thoughts. I was snooping in the Discord, and a lot of you had some great insights, some good ones, some negative ones, and I'm really excited to just get into it and discuss it. If you don't know who I am, I'm Joel. I run this channel that you're watching this live show on at this moment in time. So we're just going to go through and think of each of our thoughts, our ratings. Leave your ratings in the comment section and we'll highlight some as we go through. And I'm so glad a lot of you are getting the coordination. We did not plan this at all. This just happens all the time. And yeah. So
our minds think alike. We're in sync.
Indeed, indeed. So yeah, I guess one of you two shall go first. Oh, this way, and give us your ratings and thoughts.
I know, I wanted to see people's ratings. Okay, I'll go first.
I know in our Discord this was
I was trying not to look at the Discord because I was like, I don't want to be influenced by the Discord ratings.
I looked at it after I read it, and there were a lot of mixed things that people were saying. So
it was very divisive. I can say that. I was very. I also was very like divisive when coming up with like my rating, and I was just like, I didn't know whether to go for one rating or the other rating. So, but I'm not going first anyway. So.
Oh no, I don't. Okay, I don't want to go first. I am giving it a 4 stars. I think that the end, I think it would have probably been closer to a 5 for me, but the ending felt like it was collapsing in on itself a little bit. But I felt like the whole story was super important. I felt like, I don't know if you guys listened to it with the audiobook, but the performance was excellent and I really felt connected to Enchanted. So I loved that. And I just thought it was really strong and a really important conversation, and I liked it. So that's mine.
Okay. So I'm gonna give Grown a 3 out of 5. I was initially gonna give it a 2. But there were several instances in the book what I really liked, and there were other instances where I didn't like. I didn't like sort of the style of the book. I didn't like how it was written. I didn't like how sort of the things that played out. I thought that the present chapters, I believe that there was only like 10 out of the 90 chapters that were in here. I thought that was, I don't know. I like that better than reading sort of so much of the past, but I get why. I just didn't really like how the story was overall structured to me. I mean, we'll get into like the spoilers later, but overall, I thought the conversation and the message was really important, but writing like style overall wasn't just for me. So.
Okay. Yeah.
I gave it a 4. I was between a 3 and a 4 overall. I could say a 3.5, but I'm going to go for a 4 because I feel like that's where I'm like more with. I'm going from like the synopsis. It felt like to me it was going to be quite like a thriller mystery with this very important story about grooming in the industry that Enchanted is trying to be in. And I'm going to separate my thoughts into before Corey's death and after Corey's death, because his death is not spoilery. Before Corey's death, I think that the structure was like, I think like Enchanted's mind was definitely like resonating with me with a lot of like the experiences that she went through. And I think that a lot of the writing was strong in emotion, but I felt like we needed a bit more from like Enchanted's inner thoughts. And then after he died and we started to get into like who killed him and all of this, I felt like that part was rushed a lot. I think that it was just resolved really quickly, and like a lot of the effects after the death were kind of happening a bit too quickly for me. So I think that's where it kind of like lost it for me a little bit, because I feel like it could have done with slowing down the pace a little and maybe just exploring more of like the aftermath of the death and kind of this whole victim blame culture that had was permeating throughout the novel, but it was its strongest near the end, and I don't feel like there was as much of a focus on that. So that's where it kind of like left it for me.
I think I totally agree with you. And the way when we're figuring out who did it, I was like obviously so entranced. I was like, what's going to happen here? And then it's not that I didn't buy it. It's just that it went so fast that I was like, oh, I mean, I guess that's a probable cause, but I didn't see that at all. And I feel like it should have kind of built up to that instead of being like kind of a catch you off guard moment for me.
Exactly.
Sorry. I agree with both of you. I feel like if you're calling it on its own, sort of like a thriller, I think that it might have been underwhelming for the most part, but I feel like that isn't the main takeaway for the book in general with its general message. And that's why I rated it a 3 instead of a 2, because I understood that for me personally, it wasn't like reading about how it was like the best thriller or, how Jackson would incorporate those elements into this book, because this is a really, really, relevant and scary situation that's still going on, in the world, essentially. So,
a lot of the people in the comment section agree. They say like the ending felt a bit rushed. Someone said it was messy. People also adored the audiobook. I did like half and half, audiobook and physical. And I think that helped as well, kind of getting the voice in my head as I was reading without the audiobook as well, so I could really get into that situation. And I think the narrator really did it well. People are still noticing our yellow aesthetic.
I'm the one that has a logo.
We're gonna get into Gab because that one was a bit of
I get what
this I agree with. I feel like it could have done a lot better if it was a contemporary as opposed to being marketed as a thriller. But I guess the thrilling aspect is that it could happen to anyone and that it's like such like a realistic thing that happens. Like I've been reading a book called White Tears, Brown Scars, and it talks a lot about kind of the things that women of color face, and like the statistics in that book are like really, really like awful, and it is a thing that can happen, and it's definitely like a very sensitive subject. And I think in terms of that, I think Tiffany D. Jackson did tackle it in like a respectful way. But yeah, I think overall the story was a bit lackluster in the sense of like what it was trying to achieve in terms of what it was marketed as. But yeah, I think that is basically everything for like the non-spoilery section. Because I feel like
I just saw a comment that said someone just asked, can someone remind me who the killer is? So maybe we should just get into the spoilers.
Right. So we need to like jump. Yeah. Okay. So
goodbye. We're talking about spoilers now.
Before Ellias does like his spoiler thing right away. Yeah. Right. So this killer thing, it was like such like I feel like it was such like a shock thing at the end where like you're like, oh, that's the killer. And then you're just like, oh, okay. So for everyone who doesn't know, basically we're told like right at the end of the book that it was, I think it was like Corey's best friend, like he'd been working with, what's his name? I'm quickly checking the book because Richie, that's it, to be fair. Basically exactly. It's like Richie stabbed him, and then the camera cuts off inside the fish, and then Richie goes to jail, and all of that. And then basically, what the shock thing is that Enchanted then went ahead and ended it and like stabbed him to death because he was still alive after Richie stabbed him. And so it's like the shock thing, like she did actually kill him. Oh my gosh! And I just felt like I was like, oh, okay, like I was like, cool. Like, you did it, but I feel like I didn't get the vindication that, like, I was wanting.
Well, exactly what you just said, like, the fact that we even forgot Richie's name shows me, like, he wasn't a convincing murderer to me. I'm okay that he's the murderer, but I feel like he should have been threaded more into the story if he's really going to be like the end all be all. Like, oh, he's the one caught on camera, and then I don't know. I felt like even the reasoning was a little weird. Like Jessica's down with everything until like the very end of the book. Like I don't. What the fuck happened?
I hated that. I hated her so much. I was just like, I'm just like, how do you?
And why is it that you were able to endure all of this shittiness? You were able to be like such a weird like person in Corey's life for so long, and then it's just like okay, and now it's Richie. Like I don't really understand that.
Literally, I think like especially because we were building up to this point where like the killer was going to be revealed, and we're supposed to be like, oh my gosh, it was this piss, and it's just like there wasn't enough emotional investment in the relationship between Richie and Corey for it to specifically feel shocking. And it was just like, this is also
you guys. When Jessica first appeared on the page, I was like, this bitch is the killer. Like when
I wish.
I was like, there's no way she isn't. She acted like, I don't know, first of all, she was a terrible character, but then it was just so, I don't know, I had a theory. I was like, she probably did it along with, I don't know, she either did it herself or with another person. And then I was right on both accounts. And then when it turned out to be like that big plot twist overall, I was like, but there's so many plot holes, you know, like wouldn't the pressure of stabbing someone like differentiate between the two people who actually did it? And first of all, I didn't really get the whole subplot of killing, oh my God, what was his name? Christian? Corey! Corey! Wasn't the whole murdering of Corey, it was so unrealistic to me with Enchanted being there. Like, was Jessica waiting for, I don't know, Enchanted to pass out? Or was she planning on her being there? Because I was like, so if you never passed out, would they have killed you too? Or like, what was happening, you know? Guys, I didn't understand that.
When Enchanted's fingerprints be on the knife?
Yeah,
they
exactly.
No, they said they were.
I was like, so many things aren't adding up. But I was just like,
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, just that it's that like they had said like the reason why we think it's her is because her hand was on the blade, like her DNA was on the handle.
Yeah.
Oh, but like even then, like the whole murder of Corey with Richie involving Jessica and Enchanted, I was like, so Enchanted was only there. She was coincidentally there when he was murdered, so they just pinned it on her. But like, what if she wasn't? Like, how did they know she was there? You know, like it was just wrapped up in a neat little bow too much for me, like sort of that aspect. I just overall prefer, I thought the book was really heavy-handed in just a lot of aspects, and I prefer more subtlety, but that's just me and my taste and how I like to read in books. But so many plot holes didn't make sense to me. The gap thing was like out of left field. So
with something that happened. Oh yeah, totally want to talk about gap. That moment when like, why does Enchanted call Jessica to say that Richie is wearing Corey's watch? You haven't been able to trust Jessica the entire time, and yet you call her to check up on a detail that obviously would be helpful to your case. I don't know why you would call this woman. So I had a problem with that.
It's the fact that she's just like, you murdered him. And she's like, yeah, I can still trust you and tell you exactly what I found out. It's just like, really?
It's just funny because, okay, I think there's just several like aspects to Enchanted's character. But then she would do something that I would be like, girl, oh my God. Like, she calls herself super mature and like everything, but you know, I guess naive, her being naive comes to play in the book, and you know how and everything. But on the other aspect of it, I was like, oh my God, why? You know, like calling Jessica, telling her like, oh, you know, you're involved in Corey's murder or whatever. You know, and her doing some things that I was just like, huh? Like, to me, it felt like she was a little. She didn't read to me as 17 or I don't know. She read a lot younger to me, so I was just like, wow. But that was just me. So
I think like it comes into play, like she is a teenager and I think she turned 18 over the course of the book. And like she does, like she will make mistakes, but I feel like a lot of the mistakes that she made were just, I was just like, would she have made that mistake though? Like I feel like it didn't, like it was slightly like unbelievable, but like I can see why it happened and like why she might have done that. But it was just like, I felt like she was too trusting at times of people, and it just didn't play out well in the end, especially after she saw everything that was going on. But again, it's just like, I think because she was so deep within that like manipulation, that it might have just like played with her emotions and a lot of it as well. But also, I think this is what's going to take like the next 5 minutes of our discussion. Gabriella.
That makes no sense to me.
Or like, what's her name? Olivia Hill? I don't, like, I feel like that, like it was put in place as like to question her mental state and like potentially gaslight her into thinking what she was thinking was not real. But I feel like it was just done not well.
It was not executed well at all. Yeah, I agree.
So like, I feel like unreliable narrators are like super prevalent in like every single thing you read. And that happens a lot, right? When you're reading a thriller or a mystery that has like a drunk protagonist, like you can't trust what they're saying because you've seen that they have forgotten something or they've blacked out or something has happened. Whereas I feel like for the entire book, she's a reliable narrator, and then all of a sudden we're being asked if Gab is even real, and so then I just felt like it was disjointed. Like it didn't make sense to me why Gab wouldn't be real because she was a reliable narrative for most of the book, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, you forgot that someone existed? Like that doesn't make sense. But then why does no one? How can like her sister not even know that she hangs out with someone at lunch? Like that just didn't make sense to me. So I'm okay with an unreliable narrator if Enchanted felt that way the entire time. But I like everything she was saying, I felt like was fact until all of a sudden everyone around her can't remember a friend like that she's with all the time or like on the phone with. I don't know.
Yeah, and another aspect was that Enchanted, was the only person of color at the school besides Gabriella. So like, wouldn't I guess this calls an aspect of like how people of color are ignored in general, but like, wouldn't people notice like there was only one person hanging out with, Enchanted or whatever, or even at least like, even if she went under a different name, I don't know. It was just too, like I said before, convenient, and it was just like a really giant plot hole. It just really disjointed, like you said, Noelle, because it didn't really make any sense. Like, no one knew about this other person ever. So, like,
and it's like, it was like, Enchanted didn't really know Gab's real name either, which I was like, how you go to school with this girl? Surely a teacher is going to call her by her name at some point and be like, hey, I think her name was Olivia, I can't remember. But like, hey, name, like, it was just like, that was really like too convenient for me. But Tanya made a really good point. The call out that Gab did right at the end to the cops was phenomenal. I felt like it was amazing. I think that it needed to be said, particularly as like a more so fourth wall breaking moment, potentially, like as Gab is also talking to the reader about how we don't believe women when they come forth about these things and sexual allegations, and like we need to do better, especially with Black women who come forth as well. We need to do better in supporting them and better in ensuring that we champion them in like supporting them throughout everything. So yeah, I think like what Gab did at the end was amazing, but I think that the whole plot was a bit for me. It was just not there.
And then Gab like pulls up with her car, like she's like hiding at the hotel and she's like, I knew you'd be here. And like also like how is Enchanted just like not turning herself in that day? Like she's supposed to turn herself in and she's just not there. She's like at a meeting, and then Gab like, just pulls up and is like, hey, get in the car. I'm like, what is going on? And what just happened? Like I loved all of it. And then the end, as I said, felt like it was kind of crumbling really fast. And that was a weird feeling because I felt like I had such good footing on the story for the entire like the entire book. I felt like I understood what was going on, and then Gab like started like no one remembered her, and then the Richie solution, I was just like, what just happened? I felt like I completely understood what was going on, and then you look around and you're confused.
True.
Totally.
I think one thing I did like about the story was kind of like the metaphors with fish and kind of like the Little Mermaid metaphors that were like being woven out throughout the story about like how Enchanted was trying to like go up and out of like her world and try and explore this whole new world. And I think like especially if you look at like the original tale of the Little Mermaid and like everything that happened there, you can find like some connections between this and Enchanted story, although Enchanted doesn't turn into foam at the end. It's it's like it's definitely one that both characters suffer and both characters do go through a lot of pain, and it's one that whilst in the actual Little Mermaid, like Ariel turns to Christ and does all of this good deeds and stuff, but Enchanted has a lot of support, because I think as well, like one thing that I really liked at the end were people who were like, there's so many other people coming forth, we need to like support Enchanted, let's get together, let's get like a whole conversation going, and that was really great. I think like that was just really, really like good as well. Oh yeah, they also did have that Twilight illusion, where they were like, I feel like he's Edward and I'm Bella. And I was just like, that had warning signals going off right away.
Yeah.
I
totally
like,
agree with you about the Little Mermaid imagery. I loved that. I thought that was the swimming and the fish and the Little Mermaid and losing your voice. And, you know, I thought that was really, I mean, I loved the Little Mermaid growing up. So I was just like, oh my God, Enchanted, this is amazing. And so I loved it.
I just found it to be so great. I think as well, there were just a lot of plot threads in the novel that just weren't tied up. Although it could have been done on purpose, but then also at the same time, it was just like, like I just needed some more from it.
Yeah.
And I think the characters did need to be fleshed out a little bit more, purely because I feel like I didn't see like a lot of their motivations, like again with Richie and why he killed Corey. I think that I needed a little bit more from like just the whole scenario as a whole, because I really think that we needed like a bit more background to like the night of when Corey was murdered. Because it was just like, it happened.
I counted the chapters. There's like 10 out of the 90 chapters that happened.
Oh,
that were
wow.
written. So, yeah.
Someone just said something that was really interesting.
I think while you find that, Noelle, I'm going to say something real quick.
Okay, go.
I feel like the chapters, they were really short. And why I like that, and that made it like a super readable and fast-paced book, I just felt like what everybody said, like the ending was really rushed. And I feel like I missed sort of all the fine details, like, you know, in sort of like in the whole story, in all the cracks. So I feel like if everything, like what you said, Joel, could have been fleshed out, even the parents too, as well. I don't know, there were so many instances where I didn't, I felt like I was reading about like different people at different times. And it just, the whole book really felt disjointed to me, especially the thrilling aspect, the mystery aspect of it. And how I wish that there was more, the present was more fleshed out in terms of the aftermath of, you know, Enchanted being accused of Corey's murder and everything. Like the whole mystery of her getting to realize who Corey's murder is and everything. That felt like I don't know, really far-fetched and sort of unbelievable at times, but you know. But did you find the comment, Noelle?
Yeah, it was about the wife, Corey's wife.
Oh,
like what? That was another part where I was like, what is happening?
That is a plot thread. That is a plot. I was just like, and especially someone was like, someone said about like when Enchanted found out via the Instagram. It's I think like she was a secret, and so only like his close friends knew that she existed. But I'm literally just like, you spent so long with this man, and not once has his wife appeared. Not once has his wife just shown up and been like, hello, I'm his wife. And so it just felt really weird to me that like suddenly right at the end his wife just appeared and was just like, my husband died, a good man, blah blah blah. Like, and I was just like, like, I just didn't get why she needed to be there. But another interesting comment, unless actually no, I will do that after if any of you have any comments about the wife.
No, like we
I
said,
think that the
agree with it. Oh.
Oh no, you go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was just saying. Go ahead, no.
Yes, you go. I'm not going. You go.
Oh god.
I was just saying, I completely agree with Joel, and just I feel like she was just brought in to add in sort of like another like sort of complex like complexity to like the mystery in general, and it was just so random that she was just there because she's never explained at all in the whole book, and suddenly pops out and being like, I'm his wife, he was a great person, he will be missed, rest in peace, you know. But I feel like that was sort of like I feel like I was like, it didn't really take me out of the story as much, just because I feel like in the entertainment industry it's just something really prevalent and really similar. Like there's so many instances where like you don't know who's like partners or who, you know. So I feel like in the entertainment industry that was like really, I guess, relatable, a big mood in a way. So go ahead, Noelle.
I actually, maybe I just like misread it, but I thought she was just like a ploy wife. Like I didn't think that there was ever actually a relationship. I thought it was kind of like, I'm going to get married so that I have a backup because all these allegations are coming up against me. And so I'm going to just be married so that if anything happens, like, because I didn't, like, if we never hear about her and the way that she's, I mean, obviously they didn't have a connection at all. Like the wife and him didn't have a connection. So I feel like her tears were, she was like an actress that was just trying to show, like trying to clear his name while she was dead or while he died, you know? I don't know if that makes sense. Yeah, PR stunt. That's exactly what I thought.
Someone said, if he was married, then why was he trying to marry Enchanted? I can answer this from Corey's words himself, because when he introduced Amber into the mix, he was like, I think he said something about the Bible and how like God was like, he could take multiple wives. And so I think that's his reasoning for why he could do it to so many girls, because he feels like it's his God-given right. And it's disgusting, and I'm glad that he died. But speaking of Corey, oh gosh, where's this comment now? Because it was such a good one. I think I've passed it. Oh no. If I can't find it, I'm just going to talk. Yeah, I'm just going to talk because I can't find it. The Jekyll and Hyde connection, where Enchanted was basically comparing his two moods to being Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I think it's definitely like, especially with like the real book, of like how you have people with two contrasting personalities and like how they're trying to separate, well, Jekyll is trying to separate Hyde from himself. And I think that you can't really do that in this case. Like you can't separate Jekyll from Hyde in this abusive situation, because whilst it's a good connection for like his like mood swings, I think that you can't really love someone if like they're good one part of the time, like let's say if they're good 50% of the time and then abuse you 50% of the time. I think that it's not really a stable relationship, because you're literally being hurt and abused, and it was very painful to read, and very like, I resonated a lot with like the Jekyll and Hyde analogy with like the Enchanted and the abuser. But it was definitely something that was hard to read, and also something that just kind of, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but it just felt very like real.
Yeah. But somebody else said, but he was creepy 100% of the time.
Yeah.
That was very true. I feel like I agree. I like 100% agree with you, Joel, especially, you know, how lucrative this is sort of in the entertainment industry, you know, where, you know, these celebrities, or some of the, especially men, are put on these pedestals, and how it's so hard for people to sort of come out because of these people in power. So I really liked how in this aspect of the book, where it was like different aspects of people dealing with, you know, this trauma, and how other people will turn a blind eye to ignore the situation completely, especially when it comes to these people in power, especially men. So that's like one of the main aspects that I really liked about in this book.
Yeah. Did you have any thoughts, Noelle?
Oh no, I completely agree with both of you. I think that I totally agree with everything you're saying. Jekyll and Hyde, I've never actually read, so I was like, totally makes sense, right? Because there's like an evil side and a good side, and now I just want to read it because I feel like maybe I would have gotten more out of that. I really do like how the author kept threading literature or movies or, you know, plays or whatever it was to help the reader connect with what was going on, right? Because if maybe you've never personally experienced it, you can at least be like, oh, well, you know, maybe I know of Jekyll and Hyde, and so like you can kind of ground your opinions in fiction or movies that you've watched. And I thought that was really beautifully done. So,
and there is one interesting comment that says about why she kept going back to Corey after everything and like all the things that he was doing. And I think it's definitely manipulation, because he was manipulating her throughout the entire thing. He did threaten suicide if she did leave, because he was like, you're the only he was like, you're the only one that I can be. You're the only one who like I can like be myself around, I can live with. I think that he was definitely trying to manipulate her in different ways, like threatening to pull back the money that he was supposedly giving her family. Like he was doing so many different things to try and keep her his possession, that
so disgusting.
She really didn't have any other option. And especially as well, if you're on like tour with someone and like you really don't know like the city that you're in, it's going to be much harder to try and leave someone and go somewhere and be in somewhere unfamiliar. And it's something that's very real that happens, because people sometimes do go back to their abusers, and someone like it can be quite hard to like leave an abusive relationship. I think that it's definitely something we need to take into consideration when we're reading this, especially with like a lot of the decisions Enchanted makes, because she is being actively manipulated throughout. And so yeah, that's what I have to say.
Yeah, about that. I feel like she's being actively manipulated, but she also like there's part of it that's not only is he threatening all of these violent acts, like, you know, financially not supporting the family anymore, which we find out he never really was, and then killing himself, like those are all manipulative. But there is a point where she thinks that her whole career could jet off, which is something she doesn't want to give up. And you can see her struggle with her love for him a lot of the book. Like even when he becomes Mr. Jekyll's the mean one, right? Like even when
Hyde's the mean one, Jekyll is the good one.
Okay. Even when he's like the Hyde version of himself, she's still like, but I love him. Like there's a lot of those moments where like I understand why, you know, when she's wrestling with these feelings of like my career, and also he could hurt himself or hurt my family, but also I remember how sweet he was. Like I feel like he really did a really fucking poignant job at grooming her, so she felt like he really loved her. And so I understand like why she's like, oh well, I would be giving up on my first love. She didn't know a love like that ever in her life, so she'd never been kissed before this, except for like one kid in like elementary school. So
I agree with both of you, especially when Joel, like, you know, how he said that this was like her first love, and in what Noelle said, that you don't tend to like think that way. You tend to overthink things or overlook things as well, especially how he took advantage of her at such a young age. Like he's a grown ass dude, you know. It was just at times so disheartening and really hard to read at times, which for me, and I was just like, oh my god, you know, like you can be frustrated, but you can also I can see why and understand why she thought the way she did, and not like leaving earlier or recognizing sort of these red flags because, so.
Mm-hmm. I definitely think, especially like since it was her first relationship, she had no like prior experience of being in a relationship. So I don't think she knew like what she was getting into was manipulative until like she had that realization where she was noticing all these other girls. And like with that first case came out with I want to say Candy's her name. And like she started to like piece everything together about Corey. I think like that was the moment for her where she was like, this isn't what a relationship is supposed to be. This isn't like what is like supposed to happen. And like Billy literally just said, he was a pop star and he had such a big influence. Like she wanted to start a music career. And I think like, especially where she like says, I'm going to record an album. And then he keeps delaying it so he can spend more time with her. It's definitely showing a lot of the power that he held over her and her dreams and her ambitions. Because again, she didn't want to go home and be like, I want to do this. Like, I want to be a singer. And her parents are like, yeah, but you need to put all of this beforehand. But she's like, I want to be a singer. And she went off and she doesn't want to come home and be like, you were right, you told me so. And I think that's where like her pride came into it a little bit. But like, again, I think it's very important that we don't blame Enchanted for anything that like happened to her throughout this, because it's not her fault at the end of the day. Like, it's not, like, she is a victim. And I think that it's definitely important that we, like, although we can make critiques about her character and like the way that she was written, I think her actions are definitely valid responses to the abuse that she was receiving.
Yeah, this like like this whole overall just comes into play in the aspect of choosing to ignore or not help or understand the victim when they speak out, and sort of empathize and understand what they're going through, and not just turn a blind eye and just victim blame, as what you said, which is like really real in our world today.
I feel like that whole conversation with Enchanted's mom and all the other moms, when they're trying to blame her, saying like, oh, well, she went with him and she was, attracted to him, or like she could have, walked away at any point. And it's like, no, this wasn't her fault at all. And I love what the mom was saying. Like, how are you not understanding that this was a man with power and a man who was so much older than her and knew what he was doing? That's why he was doing it. Right. Like, I thought that was, and then I love that, like, she just kept fighting for her daughter, kept fighting, didn't walk away. And then eventually one of the moms was like, what do you need from us? But I was like, how are these moms like not seeing? And then she's like, my daughter would never do that. And it's like, you don't know what your daughter would do, right? Like, that was so, I was so, I thought that conversation was really important, but I was so frustrated for the mom, because I was like, how are you not seeing that Corey was very deliberately, like, he was going for Enchanted because she was young and because she didn't know better and because he had the power and the money and the influence. Like, of course.
I like, especially what Michelle says here, I think the text conversations were extremely powerful, because like we see in like the conversation amongst the kids without the Jones siblings in there, like you see how they change from like being like trying to blame Enchanted for everything that was happening to being like, oh no, it's not her fault. All of these women have come forth now and have said they've been manipulated and abused. We need to support our friend. And like, even one of them admits, they were like, I feel so bad for what I did. And they were like, yeah, but it matters what we do now to support Enchanted. And I think that was amazing.
Yep, absolutely agree.
Shall we talk about the parents? Because I think they were such brilliant people. I think they like tried to support Enchanted any way they could. I think we did need a little bit more development from them in terms of like their like personalities, but I feel like they definitely fulfilled their roles well within the story of being parents who would go tooth and nail to defend their child. They didn't know what they were getting into when they signed their daughter to this. They just wanted their daughter to be happy, and they wanted their daughter to go off and fulfill her dreams, because they saw that it was going to be quite realistic for her with the promises that they were kept. And it's definitely something that we're told throughout the story, where the parents are like, we were promised this, we were promised that, but after she left, time and time again, they wouldn't contact us, they wouldn't tell us how she is, they didn't give us any money. It's definitely something that they were like, we need to fight for our daughter. And you can definitely see it where like the dad gets beat up, which was an emotional time. It was hard to read that part, I think, definitely as well, where there's like a bit of like distance between Enchanted and her dad when she comes back. And I think it's literally because he doesn't know what he can say to his daughter, because he tried to rescue her and like it just didn't work out. And he's just like, he doesn't know whether he can face his daughter or not. And I think the moment where he shaves her head again and that just like reconnects was just beautiful and heartbreaking at the same time, because it's like, how do you try and reconnect with your child after they've been through such a harrowing experience? And it definitely takes a while, and it definitely takes like some time to kind of reconnect with people. And like Heidi said, the voicemails were heartbreaking as well. But yeah, I've talked for too long.
And I feel like I feel like it's super important to show that like the parents were also manipulated by Corey and his whole group, because he would say he was like really flattering towards towards Enchanted, but then also like on the first meeting like introduced them to like their favorite artist, so they were like, oh, this is really cool and this is really interesting and he seems like a really nice guy and like he's making sure to connect with us and check in with us. And so he also wormed his way into their trust, right? And then eventually I think that they did a great job at like realizing not to trust him, and they fought so hard and so many people checked on Enchanted, and I feel like that was a wonderful, like they really fought for her, and that whole conversation with the mothers I thought was really, really, really strong.
Yeah, I agree with 100% with both of you. I feel like I wanted so much more from the parents, especially more from the father's side. I loved his relationship with Enchanted, especially with him cutting his kid's hair. I thought that was beautiful. I really wished we could hear, like, I think there was a comment somewhere, I can't find it, but I think it was by someone named Jeanette, where they said that they wanted to like hear more from Enchanted's father, because I felt for the mother as well, but him as a father going and getting tussled up by Corey and his group of people, like that was just really emotionally like hard to read as well. And I just loved the relationship, and that they would just also fight tooth and nail, especially with the mom. She was just like, in the beginning, she wasn't sure about her daughter's, reputation as a singer, and then fully fighting tooth and nail, even with the other moms at the end, But I just wished a little bit more from her dad, because I thought that was just more of an emotional aspect of it for me. And I wish I could read more of that. So
yeah, I think it was definitely really.
Oh, sorry. I was also going to say I wanted a little bit more from Enchanted's siblings as well. Just seeing the aftermath and how they dealt with Enchanted's whole situation, especially with her younger sister. But but yeah, that's all I had to say. Sorry, Joel, go ahead.
It's fine. I definitely really like appreciate the fact that like her parents didn't have like a bit of doubt, where they were like, was it thing? I think the fact that they believed her right away, where they were like, my daughter is being manipulated, abused, I think that was also really powerful as well, because you can see like the connection that they have with Enchanted, and like the fact that they believe her right away shows how much they love their daughter and how much they're going to fight tooth and nail for her. I think we definitely did need a little bit more from like the siblings, especially like with Shay and like her relationship with Enchanted. I feel like there were moments where I just felt like we could have really had some great moments between Shay and Enchanted, because especially where Corey's like, oh, does your sister sing? Does your sister do this? Should I invite your sister over? Should I do? And then Enchanted's literally like, don't you touch her, like, don't you do anything. I feel like if there would have been such a really beautiful moment when if like Enchanted had like sat down with Shay and just been like, I will let no one like do this to you, or like let no one do what they did to me to you. And so I feel like that would have just been such a beautiful moment together. Unfortunately, we did miss out on that. But I think that would have just been really nice as well, just to see like a little bit more of a relationship between them two.
I want to just clear something in the chat where I think somebody said that it was Enchanted's pride that had to do. I 100% disagree. Like we talked about before, how she was gaslighted and manipulated into this whole relationship, and how this grown man was like grooming her you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think her pride had anything to do with it. It was all 100% on the predator. And, you know, like we said before, we should not, you know, victim blame and try to understand from this perspective, you know? So this is why.
This comment's interesting.
I
think that is basically where I would only agree with the extent of her pride, that because she didn't want to go home because she'd have to face her mum and be like, you told me so. That is it. That is literally it. Like, if you think it's Enchanted's fault that she was abused, leave. Like, now. Goodbye. Like,
that's part of the whole problem,
Yeah, just you are literally part of the problem. You are part of the problem that is blaming victims of sexual abuse, blaming the person for choosing to be in there and all of that. Like, no, just no. Like, no. It's not Enchanted's fault whatsoever. And thank you. Thank you for listening to our TED Talk. Thank you. But no, it is never the victim's fault. And I think that is definitely something that is definitely prevalent throughout the novel as well, how people try to blame Enchanted like at the beginning, but then by the end, basically everyone is on Enchanted's side, except for like odd characters who are in the wrong / participated in the murder of Corey. But it's definitely pivotal that you are told, like you are shown by the end of the story, that it is literally no one's fault. And especially with the support group that is founded, and literally the support group is like, it is not your fault and this is a safe space and everything you say will not leave this. And yeah, it's definitely impactful. And
yeah, you said that beautifully, Joel. You said that really, really well. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. But yeah, I just think that it was definitely a story about how we need to stop blaming victims. And why is Siri going off?
Siri's listening, Joel.
Siri's listening about my speech. Siri's like, that's the song I love. But yeah, no, Siri, Siri just, thank you, Siri. But no, it is, I forgot what I was gonna say. Let's talk about Derek.
Who?
That's it. That is literally it. So Derek is like a very throwaway character, I want to say. Like, basically, he meets Enchanted at like this event, and she talks to him, and then Corey gets mad that she's talking to another man. He's like, you will not speak to another man. And I think Derek is Richie's son. And so when she like tells Derek about what's happening, he's like, no, my dad can't go to prison, so Yema, leave now. Like, you're not going to be able to do this. And it's just like, this is why we can't trust men. This is why men suck.
Literally. I was rooting, and then that happened, and I was like, oh my God, you're fucking trash. Like,
he's part of the problem.
Yes.
And it's like, I just feel like he cared more about himself and his like career and family in that moment than he did for Enchanted and what was actually right. And I just think that was a very, very like hurtful aspect to it, because I thought Derek was like the only, like one of the only good people in the like the industry to like that was helping Enchanted.
Sad, honestly,
it was just like, it was like, we were all rooting for you.
I think that was actually so brilliant, because I feel like there was a clear delineation of like who the villains were and who the good people were in the book. And then you have this character like Derek, who you're like, oh, I trust you, and you seem like you're looking out for Enchanted. And then to see at the end, he falls into the pattern and he's not strong enough to stand up for Enchanted, and he is more worried about protecting his family and protecting the industry that is hurting young women. I feel like that was really strong, because it made me, I was like, wait, not, exactly, we were all rooting for you. I was like, wait, no, you're supposed to be good. And you played right into the palms of the industry. I thought that was brilliant. I thought that was so smart.
Yeah, like this whole aspect, I guess this is like another layer of how charisma and how you think you know what how people are on like the surface, but you don't, especially when people do come forward with allegations. It's like also so important to understand and listen to them, especially in like in this case where people like, oh no, he can never do that, so but his character was, I agree, he wasn't just black or white, but in the end he showed his like true colors. And that right there is like so dangerous in the aspect where it was more subtle, and in that aspect of like abuse and ignorance, especially in the entertainment industry with people of power. So
exactly. Okay, we have 10 minutes left, which this hour's gone really quick.
It really did. This was really fun.
I think the main takeaway for me from this is that it definitely emphasizes victim blaming culture is like still rampant today, like especially where we see with like Harvey Weinstein, R. Kelly, and a bunch of other like cases that are coming out every day about sexual abuse and other forms of abuse, like domestic abuse as well. I think it's important that we don't like blame the victim, and we don't blame we just don't blame the victim, period. Like there's nothing else to say apart from that, really.
Online.
It's definitely a good, I think this was definitely a good example of like spotting the red flags within an abusive relationship, and how like, especially because I think a lot of the comments that I was seeing were like whether this should have been written for a young adult audience because of the themes that were in this book. And I definitely think it should have been, because again, Enchanted is 17. Like this is happening to children, literal children. And I think that like giving them this type of book to like not only see someone else their age going through this, but also seeing kind of like the warning signs and the impact it can have on someone. I think it's definitely important that people Enchanted's age read this. And I think that it's definitely something that's vastly important now, especially where we are addressing victim blaming culture, and we're addressing kind of a lot of the bad roots within different types of industries. And like, I just think that it's vastly important for it to be in the young adult genre. Well, genre market.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it concerns young adults. And so like, I feel like it should be something that they're reading. And I think that what I think was really, really brilliant of the author was we know that Corey is bad. We know that fully as a reader, you know that. But when you see their like the beginning of their relationship, you can understand why Enchanted is interested in Corey. And I think that that's important for a young reader to read, is to see like, oh, someone has made me feel special in a very unique way, or someone has kind of, okay, now they're starting to cut me off from people. And now I feel like I'm scared to tell them what I'm doing, or I feel like I can't, like, I think it's important to show how sweet Corey was being to Enchanted in order to manipulate her, because that's something that a young person can't spot as manipulation. They're just like, oh no, they're just being nice to me. And I think that that was important. And so, and even Corey was abusing people even younger than Enchanted. So I think it's really important for young adults to read this, and for people in high school and even maybe junior high. I don't know. But I think it's really important. And I think that it was a really phenomenal way to communicate that message.
Yeah, I agree 100% with both of you. I guess my favorite aspect of this book is, or like the structure of the book, is highlighting the dangers and critique of the abuse over young women and girls, especially when it comes to like minorities or BIPOC, and how they aren't taken seriously, and also how they all deal with this trauma. I guess this is a really, I feel like, great book for that audience to highlight and show those dangers, those red flags. And, because they're so young that they don't, they could relate to Chen in some way where they don't see the manipulation or they don't understand it. And I feel like this is this could be a really great fine print for that. So yeah, agree. Even though it's just personally for me, I just didn't really like the writing style or the structure, but I do understand the importance of its message and everything. Yeah. So
yeah.
it's definitely like important to like,
I'm glad
especially
I
what
read it.
Noelle.
So.
Same. I think that it was definitely like an important read to kind of also like re-educate myself on like the flags of an abusive relationship, and especially with like young people, a lot of them probably might not have had like their first major relationship yet, and so seeing kind of like the what to avoid when going into a relationship that could be seen as like or could turn into something potentially abusive is definitely important, and I think it will help a lot of people, and especially with like a lot of the helplines and information that I think like is given at like the end of the book. It's definitely going to be helpful with bringing up a wider conversation about like this entire like culture of victim blaming, sexual abuse, and kind of supporting people through kind of what's happening to them, and like letting them know that it's not their fault and they are not to blame for what's happened to them. And there was like a really good line that I remember reading at some, I don't know if it was in this book or another book, but it was just such a good line. Oh my god. It was just like, you're not at fault for the things that someone else has done to you.
Yeah.
And it spoke to me a lot. And also, this is very important as well. I think we do need to normalize trigger warnings at the start of novels, because it's definitely like something that someone could accidentally get into and not anticipate. So the fact that there were trigger warnings at the beginning were amazing.
Yeah. And trigger warnings are not spoilers, so
yeah,
exactly.
Like this whole discourse on that.
There has been literally.
To help.
Actually, to finish off, can we talk about the flight attendant?
Yes.
The saving grace of this novel.
Yep. Loved it.
I think it was definitely
that was highlight for me.
Yeah.
I think definitely like, especially with, because I work in my university, I worked as like an ambassador, where like we were given safeguarding training where it's like we need to like spot potential like triggers of abuse and like potential things that could like be seen as like potential victims of abuse. And so I think definitely like her training kind of kicked in there, where she was just like, I'm speaking to her and her alone. Like, do you need help? Do you need like some assistance? And the fact that she was so like determined to get a response out of Enchanted Alone really spoke to how amazing it was that like you're able to like show the signs of abuse and like fully have someone who wants to know your opinion and your voice, where your voice is basically being silenced by someone else.
Yeah, I 100% agree. She was iconic. She was incredible. She literally had more balls and guts than the men who were with Corey and who let it all happen and slide. And it was just, it was just overall the main highlight for me of the book. I was just like, yes, this person didn't even know Enchanted, but she knows of Corey, and she knows his reputation, his influence, his power. She didn't give a shit, you know? She's here and she sees that, and she's wondering if this young girl is okay, where literally most of the men who sees this are just like, oh, I do not see anything, you know? So it was just a really strong like point in the book. I was just like, yes.
Exactly what I was thinking. Like, she had all the opportunity to just be kind of like, once Corey said one thing, she could have been like, okay, well, this is like a famous guy. I don't want to like upset him any further. And her like determination to get an answer from Enchanted to Enchanted, like, you know, looking at her in the eyes and saying, I need you to connect with me right now. Basically, I need you to tell me if you're feeling like, if you're in danger or anything. I thought it was such a strong point. And I loved how she did not care about anyone else but Enchanted. And I think that's exactly what she needed.
Literally, I think definitely. A round of applause for her. But yeah, we're coming to like the end.
Wow, this is like the fastest time. We discussed the book. I feel like, yeah.
Literally, like it was definitely been like, I think one of the more serious-ish live shows we've had, because we have been debating like quite a like serious topic.
I think this is our first YA too, right?
This is
our first YA book.
Yeah.
The book club.
Yeah.
This stuff is YA. We chose we definitely chose
all the topics. I did not expect going into this like reading anything of like all this, everything like that. So that was a really surprise. Yeah.
Listen, for this, I have my outfit figured out already because I remember
Oh.
I have some, you'll see the cover and like I have a shirt which matches. Ooh.
I have a different cover.
What's your cover? Oh
Joel,
my
I love your color scheme better.
Oh,
That's the
you
UK
wrote this
edition.
out. Yours is so good.
But my like embossing is like slightly off, and I don't know whether that's a printing error or not. And I'm just like, it just feels slightly like above. I don't know if like, can you see it? I don't know if it'll come up or not. Probably not. But I will probably share it on Instagram because it's like slightly like off. But yeah.
I've started this.
Would you like to tell us about the power? Because
Me?
I think you're I think you're hosting next month, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah, you are.
I know it's like only women can have this electricity power, right? Ellias explained it in his TBR, and I thought it was really good. So
Yeah.
Okay, maybe Ellias can do it.
yeah, Ellias, take it away.
So it's set in this alternate reality where the female gender become the dominant gender by having this like electrical power that they can use and manipulate. And so I'm curious to see like while that happens, like come into play like the discourse a balance of genders in general, you know, because of how, and also how people how that comes into play with people who don't identify either gender. And so I think that'll be really interesting. Hopefully, I don't know, we'll see. If this book will have that or not. But I'm curious because I've seen a lot of mixed things. And some from the couple of chapters that I've read so far, I think it's really interesting. It's also different from what we've read in this entire book club. So
I definitely think like we've also vibed with the calendar. Really, like it's a bit accidental, but also really cool because we obviously picked a book from a Black author for Black History Month. And then we picked a novel surrounding feminism for like Women's History Month. And so I'm just like, we're vibing with the calendar and I love it. So
welcome to the Late Night Book Club.
But yeah, I'm just hoping you all are excited for this. Come with your opinions, good or bad.
It'll be on Noelle's channel at the end of hopefully either this month or we'll announce it, but yeah.
And I saw a few comments that we did announce March, April, and May all on our Instagram.
Yeah, we have a Discord server in case anybody is new to the chat, and we have a Discord server. I think Joel will leave a link to it down below later, and it's free. You know, it's like Noelle. I also get this question too. How do you join the book club? You just literally just join. You can follow our socials on the Late Night Book Club on Twitter and Instagram, and that's basically it. You just read the book for the month, and at the end we have a live show where we talk about it. That's pretty much it. Nothing too complicated.
I'm trying to see if I can get a Discord link.
Yeah, so we like literally have over 2,000 members on Discord, which is fucking insane.
So cool.
Literally. We definitely need to look at getting some moderators soon. Because it's definitely like a lot of people on that server. And like, again, thank you so much for joining and like interacting with one another. Like I always like pop in and like lurk sometimes and just see all of like the conversations you all get up to, and it's just been amazing. And so yeah, we definitely need to look at some mods because it would just be great to have some moderation in there. But yeah, thank you all for joining tonight. And I guess the next time we'll see you is end of this month, beginning of next month. Oh, bye everyone.
Bye.
And now